By the way, I'm short Microstrategy too, which has been a little painful, but fun nevertheless. This is like gotta end poorly, right? I think Saylor's insane. I think he's just drunk on this is like big bubble, and there's just no way this could end well. And his last company, the same exact thing happened. He just sort of went gaga, and you know the biggest Bitcoin bulls aren't as bullish as him. Like he's so out there, and it's not credible. Like he's not a good advocate for Bitcoin. And Microsoft had this like thing where they voted on whether or not the shareholders voted on whether or not they wanted to put any amount of their treasury in Bitcoin, and it came back 0.5%, which is like, as somebody who's run proxy contests, is the worst vote I've ever seen in the history of like proxy voting. Like that is, I want to look into it some more, but that is like horrible. It is so hard to get that low of a score. So I think Saylor sort of is not the best advocate, even though he's the loudest advocate. And yeah, I'm starting to actually turn somewhat bearish on Bitcoin, honestly. I think the consensus has moved to kind of where I was, and it's a little bit hard to see the bull case. It's everything's kind of consensus now. So usually in the market, when the bull case has become consensus and all the lemmings are in, that's usually the top. I still like Bitcoin conceptually, but the prices, prognosticating the price isn't easy, and it feels like the marginal buyers is out now. Saylor spent billions of dollars buying at this price, and it's all but sort of gone down on him. He hasn't been able to push the price up, which is, if you put $10 billion in an asset and you can't move it, that's not bullish. that's really bearish. So it'll be interesting to see if what happens to Bitcoin. It doesn't mean it has to go down. It certainly doesn't. It could do anything. It's the price of it is, it could go to $150,000 tomorrow for all I know. But it doesn't seem like the U.S. will build a serious stockpile of Bitcoin, even though that's been discussed, and I've discussed it with the right people, and it's still probably not going to happen in any like very serious way. And if it does happen, maybe it gets undone by a future administration. I don't know, and I'm not even sure it's at this point anything but consensus. Like it's almost going to be bearish if they don't do it, and bearish if they only do a little bit. So to me, I don't see a real great path for Bitcoin. I only see bearish stuff. Like one of the biggest reasons, interestingly, to be bearish on Bitcoin is because of things like Doge, we need crypto less. And so crypto is a solution for 2008. 2008 was, okay, the government's out of control, they're spending too much, there's a crisis, we need to abandon the monetary system. And the craziness of government drops as a homeostatic mechanism. We now see people like Musk saying, hold on a second, this is out of hand, we need to fix this, I'm going to come in here and help fix it. When most of the time business leaders, and especially billionaires, don't want to be in government. It sucks, it doesn't pay, it's shitty, what's the point? I'd rather just be rich. That's why Bill Gates never joined government, that's why Warren Buffett never joined government, that's why George Soros never joined government. It's just stupid to do so if you're super rich. But push came to shove, and Elon said, I have to do something. And he's not quite joining government, but in many ways is helping direct it. And so cutting the budget, cutting the BS, it now paradoxically, they're talking about killing KYC. You kill KYC, what's the point of crypto? You kill the surveillance state. Crypto is made to defeat the surveillance state. If you kill money printing and you restore like reasonable inflation with, not huge deficits or even, like, God forbid, a surplus, all the reasons to own crypto disappear. And you're sort of sitting there saying, well, what's the utility now? Crypto was born in a crisis. The Genesis block has the 2008 crisis inscribed in it. And so if things get back to like the Bill Clinton years of prosperity, like just unmatched prosperity, no inflation, huge growth, just success, 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 crypto kind of looks silly. Crypto sort of flourishes in a time of like, oh man, maybe we were going to abandon the dollar, dollar's breaking, et cetera, et cetera. Dollar's never been stronger. And, you have to wonder if, what is the point of Bitcoin if, things return to like this idyllic state? Crypto kind of seems to do well in makes more sense in a crisis or in a surveillance state or in things like that. And it does seem like the new regime is going to want to crack down on that sort of behavior, which paradoxically kind of hurts crypto. And I still like crypto in like some really long term, but is Bitcoin the right thing to buy right now? It certainly seems to me like the answer is no. And for MicroStrategy, you're buying Bitcoin at like this 3x multiple, which, obviously if Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy goes up too. But there comes a point in time where that delta has to collapse. And you could certainly hedge a short of MicroStrategy with being long Bitcoin. So, I think if Bitcoin goes to 60K, which, many times Bitcoin has been very volatile, it's, certainly retraced 50, 70% from time to time. If that happens, I think MicroStrategy just gets walloped. And, I think it could happen.
How old is Bitcoin now? It's like 15 years old now, or 16, right?
2008.
Yeah,
16.
16. Dude, look. I think of it more. It's gonna be more like retirement funding, retirement savings, because it doesn't matter what happens in 40, 50 years. People are still gonna gamble. Like even there's war and stuff. People, it's just like a gambling medium, and they're gonna buy drugs. So that's not going away. That's a stable base to support it. And it doesn't look like the algorithm's going away either, even if you count all the quantum computing stuff. You can't really run shorts against the SecP. No, what is it? Like the 256K K1 curve. Like the curve is fine. The elliptical, like mathematically, is completely fine, even given the. Now, you never know. There's a new physics discovery that there's a chance that can happen, but it doesn't look like any of the quantum computing stuff is getting close to it. So whatever you do with it, even if you just invest in it as just like people are going to gamble, and this is the gambling ether that's mathematically proof against fraud, and you can build stuff on it. That's gonna still be there.
It's hard to predict. It's hard to predict. I think that you could get this ennui that could occur. You can get people moving to different forms of crypto. You could get, a pronounced long bear market.
But there's a trust, though, right? There's Bitcoin is the most trusted because it's just been around now for close to 2 decades.
So what I'd say is like
And it's the most robust.
It's not been through a bear market, interestingly. So the first real recession bear market in global, kind of global economy, it's not clear how Bitcoin would react to that kind of environment. Would it actually do well in a world where equities go down 40%? What does Bitcoin do? Some people would say maybe it would go down 90%. Some people would say maybe it would go up. I don't know. Nobody knows. But
people are going to gamble, though.
So not if you don't have money, Niston. I mean, in bad recessions.
No, dude. People, the most broke.
No, but the marginal price is set by the marginal trade. So in an environment where, I remember 2008, you could buy Pfizer for 3 times earnings, right? The problem is nobody had capital. It was just redemption after redemption for funds. There was no VC deals going down, right? Tesla, he could barely close financing, and he had a strong track record as an entrepreneur, and he put his own money into the company and almost fell apart. So in times when capital is like really scarce, especially capital that doesn't want risk, and I'm not talking about individual people, I'm talking about, firms, in environments like that, people will seek to sell their risky assets. And Bitcoin, you would think, would be a risky asset, but we don't know what happens in that environment. We haven't seen a recession or anything that looked like a recession in a while, and 18 years really. And we had a big one, obviously, but a serious recession where unemployment goes up a bit, to something like 7 or 8% or more, I don't know if Bitcoin does well in that environment, and we'll see. And there are trends that die over decades, where people, it's not like you can prove for sure Bitcoin's going to be exciting 20 years from now. We may look at it as a relic.
Uh,
We may look at
I
it.
want to stress 2 points that you said earlier. First, you said that the math is good because it can automate trust itself as a function, which is basically a psychological relationship between human beings, and it's automating that with mathematics. And second thing you said is that it's a crisis asset. You see, in South America, in several countries in Africa, when their currencies go basically worthless, they have switched to Bitcoin in some cases. So you have to look, and nobody's controlling it. Nobody, you cannot ban two people using electronic devices. So in case of maybe equities go down 40% or anything, US defaults in its debt payment, I think Bitcoin is a good one. I think I read
Nah, that's
in
well
some
said.
essay. Uh,
That's very well
in
said. A lot of people overlook that, and that's actually one of the things that brings me to spaces. Throughout the entire bear market, I would see people take advantage of
Which
these
bear market? Which bear
vehicles.
market?
The past like 2
Wait,
years,
wait.
I
What bear
guess.
market?
It wasn't necessarily a bear market, it was just kind of boring.
You said the words.
All right, yeah. Well,
The
I would call
bull
it a fucking
market.
bear market.
There's a
The
bull
last two
market.
years were a bear market.
I felt like, in a way, it was, yeah.
I hate to say that your feelings don't matter, but the last 2 years have not been a bear market to anyone. This has
Well,
been
it's a good
very,
time
we
to
very
have to look
invest or
what
prosperous.
is the
find a
alternative
long,
of
but I'm just
Bitcoin.
saying it's different.
It's gold, right? So
Yeah, it's sort of
I've
like
read in
that's a
an essay.
gold like property. Yeah.
Uh,
Mom,
so so
fucking ready to come
historically,
at me.
in
Fucking hit me hard.
in 1945, when there was war going on, Roosevelt actually administrated that confiscation of gold. Possession of gold was illegal. Basically, the government controlled all of it, and then we returned to the Bretton Woods system, and then again back in the Nixon era, where it's just paper money. So gold can be confiscated, and gold is a headache to hide, and Bitcoin is this. So we discuss about what is it actually worth, what does it actually mean in substance. So what we are actually doing is that we are using massive amounts of energy to compute a mathematics that gives us trust, and that itself has value. So that's why Bitcoin has value in innate of itself, and I think it's a crisis currency. So and it's the most robust one against all
That's very
cryptocurrencies.
well said. That's 100% what it is, and a lot of people overlook that. And there's so many people that are just looking to prey on all these people that are coming to the space to, buy more Bitcoin at the end of the day.
Uh, okay, so I want to just say something a little different with it. I'm agreeing with what Martin is saying with it probably will go up a bit more and then just like you will see a crash probably. But it's not just a golden crisis currency. Like
CME gap
these guys
78 to
like
80 is
Saylor, they
normal.
have a fetishism around like being Tyrell from Alien. Like um we're gonna see Wayland Corp style shit come out. Not in probably our lifetimes, I don't think, but you'll probably see this case where you'll have specific individuals who are controlling a significant amount of online automated activities.
That's actually already
And
happening.
this is going to be like agents and stuff. Like we can see it now. There's a guy on Twitter that's just bought a pizza with an AI agent, and that's like quite significant, I think. And we're going to see agents require essentially accounts because if you're an agent, you can't really trust a bank to have these things, and it comes back to that trust factor. But somebody was saying that you can automate trust in like with maths. I'm not exactly sure with that. Like, I don't think that will exactly be the case.
The countries
But
and stuff
it'll
need
mainly be
readjusting.
the
Shut
fact
your
that
mouth.
when I make gains, I want to, like, if I'm an AI agent and I take gains, I want to take it in Bitcoin or something like this. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
see,
they're just going to be transport
so
mechanisms.
I think that's really interesting. I think that the science fiction of the agents sort of using crypto as their currency, I think so that's maybe the right end of the distribution. On the total left end of the distribution, and again, as you know, relative, I think crypto bull, you have to at least have the discussion that it's possible that people throw their hands up at some point and say this is the biggest Ponzi scheme ever perpetrated, and they just give up. And you know, it clearly at all-time highs doesn't feel like that today at all. It feels like that's impossible and that's heresy to even think or say. But again, you know, usually at all-time highs, it's the time to have thoughts like that. It's like, is my leg being pulled here? Am I really going to, you know, believe that this is a $2-3 trillion asset? Is the U.S. government going to do this? Is BlackRock going to do this? And I think that we don't know what the answer is, but it could be like the biggest Ponzi of all time. There's a thing about Albania that's interesting. Nis and I are both from Albania. The Albanian economy was wrecked in the, I want to say, 80s and 90s. You might know more history than I do, Niston, but it was basically wrecked by like a chain letter scam and a series of Ponzi schemes. And like the whole country lost huge amounts of money in it. And, you know, it makes me wonder sometimes if something's sort of too good to be true, or trillions of dollars are just created out of thin air. You know, I understand the mathematical hardness aspect of Bitcoin. I'd sort of almost prefer crypto to have some like intrinsic value, like you know, for example, a compute cycle or a kilobyte or something, because we
Yeah,
do put a lot of energy into calculating a meaningless
that
hash function.
that's it. It's energy. It's like energy futures.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but I
um,
can't claim them, right? I'm just wasting them. So it's kind
at
of the
the
opposite of value.
well, yeah. Well, it depends. Like, it's going to be like offsetting the cost of energy slash compute as like some relation. That's what I think Bitcoin's like actual value is. But I've been like doing a bunch of ZK stuff and circuits with this elliptical curve stuff, and I like the maths is sound. And the thing is, when I did that, it took a lot of the magic away from the maths because I just realized it's quite once we've gotten to this stage, the cat's out of the bag. We've seen all the like a lot of the mass. Yes, there'll be new mass. That's cool, but I think the main thing is going to be this synchronization because if you have like let's put our minds into like the way future where we've got like mining in space is like you need to sync money transfers, and that's kind of what we'll see, I think. Like,
Money in
if
space.
you're, yeah, yeah. But anyway, ways, Niston, you didn't get any sleep, I don't think. And John, give me API access, please.
Okay, thank you, Lantus.
What did I cook? That's why I came here. I'm just chilling.
I think there's like two things happening with crypto. One's like the larger, institutional stuff that we're talking about right now, but then there's also like an detected thing happening on chain where you have these people interacting in this emerging on chain economy that's independent of the fiat system, where people are getting rich by
What on-chain
chance or
economy?
getting
Like nobody's actually
well.
buying goods and services. It's just
It,
fucking.
it,
Actually, he
it,
makes a
it,
good point.
it's
You talk
very
It's
about
just
people that are
gambling.
just at Art Basel.
yeah, no, but it's still like
Look
behind
Yeah,
the
right
curtain
around at
now
the
of
it's like
people.
people
major
Like
there.
it's
gambling.
like
It's
very
totally
One
fucking
at
it's
a
a very
time,
disgusting.
retards.
esoteric
One at a time.
it's a very esoteric like economy, and it's not really fully adopted by the masses. Like I talk to people who are regular people, and they just see Bitcoin. They perceive it as how someone would perceive it as it becoming 100K because it's big news. But essentially, it doesn't mean shit if it's
Yeah,
100K.
to the rest of my
Um,
family, you know, they know Bitcoin, they even have Coinbase accounts, but they'll never ever be sitting there on Solana all day. And I think the like
yeah,
crypto Twitter doesn't understand that like the life you lead is completely alien to 99% of people. And I think that to get actual Lindy effect and to get actual roots down, for usage, you actually do have to, find serious uses that the average Joe likes. And like USDC and USDT are so amazing, but like they're just not used nearly as much as they could be. And part of the reason for that, again, comes back to what I was saying earlier. Doge could make it, this Department of Government Efficiency concept plus MAGA, all this stuff could make it so that you actually start to think about PayPal as superior to crypto. Crypto's still a pain in the ass to use, right? If you mess up a transaction, money's gone forever. If you get hacked, oh, it's all over. If you put your transaction on at the wrong time, oh, gas fees are crazy. Oh, you need to bridge your Polygon.
It's important to note that PayPal is literally the basis of Silicon Valley.
Okay.
Well,
All right,
the interesting thing about
you're done.
USDT,
You're done now.
the interesting thing about
But
I'm not
George
going to
is
Don't
say
you
anything
ever
else, Martin. I
subject to
just need to
regime
note
change,
that.
right?
ever interrupt me
So
again.
after 50 years, maybe a new dictator comes along and
No,
says, "I'll
Martin, I
control
just
all of
need
it."
to add that because some people don't know that.
Yeah, but
the
I'm in
interesting
the midst of uttering words.
Yeah, I was just throwing it in there. Go ahead. Sorry. That's my bad. Obviously.
The insolence. In Albania, they'd have your head. It'd be over. All jokes aside, I think that, yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen if average people will ever use this technology. And so that's why I think on the left end of the curve, you have to admit that there is a chance that this is the top. And the idea that there's this guy from MicroStrategy 20 years ago to the day, like 24 years ago to the day, this guy blew up in the dot-com bubble the same exact way. Flew too close to the sun. The poetic justice would be really perfect. And again, I like Bitcoin. I love the idea. This price may not be like the whole trade setup where like people have been sucked into this trade and he's trying to get like corporations to put it on their balance sheet. It feels like the last gasp of the Ponzi. And if you talk to people, nobody actually uses Bitcoin for anything. It's just this sort of, it's the bull case morphed from, don't worry, we can do stuff with this technology. It's extensible. We can do runes, stuff like that. And everyone's given up on that and said that, no, this is just the hard, slow, like layer of money that is almost like the way the Federal Reserve like sends money between Federal Reserve banks. It's not meant to be transacted with. It can't be transacted with realistically. And it's just this like, iceberg that's just going to exist. And that's just not good properties if you want it to take root, because what ends up happening, one of the biggest problems is that you've got the MicroStrategy guys, the biggest holder of Bitcoin or something like that, and people are looking at it saying like, is this something that I can get involved in or excited in? Because if you do buy into it, let's say you're Microsoft and you do buy into it, you're in essence transferring wealth to Michael Saylor. He is asking you to make him rich. The Winklevoss twins are asking you to make them rich. El Salvador is asking you to make them rich. So the more they're asking you to support their currency, you sit there and scratch your head and say, well, is this worth making you rich? And in essence, transferring some of my wealth to you, hoping that somebody else is going to do the musical chair and transfer their wealth to me. I'm trying to get a line on this in this musical chairs game. And it feels like at some point the marginal convincing party, like Saylor, he sort of just bought, what is it, $5 billion of Bitcoin or something like that, and he couldn't move the price up. And, it feels like, I don't know, this is the top, I think, for a while. And that's just my call.
Well, wait.
Yeah,
Can I make a counter argument here?
Go for it.
Okay, so it has to go up to like a $2 quadrillion market cap, because how else is my $500 portfolio going to turn into a Lambo?
That is true.
But
So
it's an
I feel pretty
algorithm.
safe.
That reminds me of the Dogecoin thesis.
Yeah.
So having like Bitcoin on your balance sheet as a company, would that not like sort of make companies enabled to sort of borrow cash against the Bitcoin and sort of giving them more options? Let's say in this case, if it is on
Well,
the
you would
balance sheet.
lower your cash and you would be buying something whose value is very tenuous. So you could not, let's say, in a pinch, let's say, I don't know, you're a drug company and you have 500 million in cash and you say, let me just take 50 million and put it in Bitcoin. Well, if you need that 50 million someday and it's in Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin, say, has dropped 80%, but you want to, just sort of hold on to it forever. Well, of course it's easy if it's gone up, 5x, it's easy to know what to do. But if it's dropped 80%, what exactly are you supposed to do? Other than write it off?
Based on like based on the halving cycles, like the volatility from like that 80% ratio is decreasing as like these halving cycles increase or pass. Based on like it's facts.
Wait, what?
So I guess it was more. Yeah, the volatility from the beginning of Bitcoin in
You observed
2009 for the first 4
volatility
years.
up until now.
Well, based on the halving
So,
cycles.
so you've observed a phenomenon
So
empirically, and you believe it must continue?
no, I'm saying that the discrepancy from like 80% swing from top to bottom is reducing.
Well, you can't predict
Based
the
on
future
the
price of a security.
no, I'm not
Okay,
predicting that.
you kind of are.
I'm just looking at
It's
on
called
well, I'm looking
hallucination.
at a historical data, right? Because Bitcoin is only 14 years old, which is technically very
Yes.
new. So nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen, but we can sort of like, I guess, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm
No,
looking
you
at the
make a
limited
good
information that
point.
we
The thing is,
all have.
the people who are
Because
using it are taking a
when we
bet
say
against our current currency and
well,
saying
because to
that it
say
is
it's going to
not
go down
holding value as well.
80%, it's very like scary for a lot of people to think that or believe that, and it might go down 80%. It could go down to zero.
Right.
But historically, it does not seem to be the
Historically,
case.
Yeah, we'll go to
doesn't help
zero.
us,
Based
my
on the halving
brother.
cycles. Based on the halving cycles.
Based on the halving, you're talking crazy.
It's like an
I think
LLM.
That's like saying
I
based
might
on
be
Intel's
delusional.
last 18 earnings reports, the company's
Yeah.
doing great and it'll never have a problem. Well, the next 18 earnings reports didn't go so great. You can't base the future price of a security on the prior price of the security. It's
Yeah, no, true. But I'm just, I'm talking about what we have seen regarding these 80%, volatility in the discussion we're having.
the past doesn't
When
help me.
was
I
the
can't bet on that. I'm betting on the future.
The LLMs can
yeah,
do it.
and
They can look at the last 15 years and then they can just like hallucinate whatever the fuck curve of distribution peak thing is happening. I mean, it's just an algorithm at the end of the day, right?
right. But if we're also going to ignore the past and say it
No,
went down
we're not
80% in the
ignoring
past, then
it.
how can we? No. I'm not talking about. I'm just generally speaking here. Then how can we say in the future that hey, it's going to go down 80% because it has gone in the past? Therefore, we should not
There
buy
are
Bitcoin
stocks that
because
go
it's
up
not getting.
1,000x, then go bankrupt. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. Everything that could happen has happened. Like, there's nothing that the past can tell you that's going to be that useful.
They could kidnap
My bet
Satoshi.
is on the Hawk Tour coin. That's gonna go up. That's the next thing.
Yeah, maybe meme coins are another sign of a bubble, in my opinion.
No, that got rugged, bro. That got already rugged.
Yeah,
Well,
she
Like,
stole
not
all
even
the money
joking.
already.
there could also be a
Fate loves
re-rug.
irony.
You could do it twice.